We are back and ready to make as many paper prototypes of this as humanly possible. And I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hop right over and just think about all the different ways we can connect some of these systems with the table. So, although I'm going to do a tabletop only, I think since through this course, people have the choice of doing digital or analog and blending them together. I think if we're at the table with miniatures, one of the early designs I had in mind for the augmented table was to have people have a good surround sound system for their play area. Have people position around the table at specific positions, and move the character through the tabletop game with some miniatures. Could be like a board game though; it doesn't have to have all the fancy sculptures. And once you get to a certain spot, though, you flip a card over, and I think the QR code reader would allow you to position. You've mapped out the space already with the grid. What kind of augmented overlay would match the configuration you put on the table based on some QR code and some measurements reader. So 3D mesh replication over the top of your actual playing surface. I think that's going to be really amazing in the coming years. There's been some early prototypes on that. But I think putting, having, this great board area and space to play together physically. But then what would it be like if you then put on the headset and shrunk yourself down to the size of that character and then had a digital recreation, whether you're scanning the item objects explicitly with PBR, with physically based rendering, and actually making it look like the real model and rendering it. But playing with scale like that, I think would just be insanely fun to do. So we're getting there to make it, where you don't need a bunch of PhDs and millions of dollars and years to do. I think the toolkits are getting more and more robust. So that's where I'm going to take this design eventually. So I'm just going to have like a tabletop, a three-dimensional play space of it. But then also you can abstract it down for the side scroll, right? So the side scroller having a side scroll map with some drawings and doodles here. I'll try and move slowly so I don't nauseate everyone watching. Having like a cavern system. This would be underneath the table, perhaps. Now, what you can do with the side scroll system is you can actually lay it down flat on the table too. So in your early designs, Mario's the perfect example. He's jumping on mushrooms after all. So not terribly original, right? But the original system here is as a simple side scroll on mobile device was kind of, Hubert kind of spurred dual jump. I thought was a bit of a rip on it, but I think they got away with it. But platforming through and having trying to build up momentum with your jumps, and the bigger the cap that you bounce on, the greater the spring upward, right? So I think this is all I'm looking for. I think early on sketches like really fast, quick, just kind of get the idea on paper. I had a mist down below that if you get too low, there's mist seeping up that you would slowly lose your health if you get down and spend too much time in the poisonous mists. So that's kind of what that was. And then I think if you enjoy doing art, painting and drawing, like go ahead and pull out the watercolors and put them in the background, have like some parallax shift and some sliding. You want to play with the screen test size. And for this one, the farther or the higher up your bounce, the more the camera would be interactive and zoom back and forth, right? From the original objectives, we're looking at trying to find, where did I put it at? Some good spores and bad spores. There's a clusters, little tentacled ones. So you'd bounce around, and I think, yeah, maybe I misplaced it, but yeah, there's the poisonous mist. There's a watercolor rendition of it, right? Some parallax that I put into Unity some years ago, And uh, yeah, so I think designing a couple stems and caps and how those would work. Having the objective to go destroy the bad spores that are poisoning, creating the green gas here, and collect the good spores that are going to maybe make a cure for that. Um, and then, you have gear. You could collect items for harvesting, collecting things. Lots of little silhouette drawings I think would be fun to do. And then, of course, taking that and running an Unreal Engine, like blocking it out and putting some of these giant mushroom forest and trees in action. So going through the modular kits, how to build those. Um, what was the name of this game? Child of Light, I believe it was, has a great talk on the GDC vault of going to go into level layout, design, blocking in, doing artistic passes as like a watercolor styled game. Um, but yeah, let's take a look at what we can do to get started with these ideas, right? So I have the players here. And for the player, I think for this one, let's see if I can get down here so we can see. I'm using my dry erase card. Now you could just grab any old paper index cards, cut them up, just kind of get started brainstorming, right? So for this one, I'll do single player, and it would be fun to do multiplayer, but who else does love Smash Brothers? Single player, and then um, maybe multi, plus maybe sidekick. I had a Truffy or Shroomy, his little um, truffle pig um, companion that would come along. Let's see, where's he at? He's over here somewheres. Oh yeah, here's the spores. I found them. All right. So yeah, just playing around with some colors like little spore collections and fun little watercolors. There's some of the green, the more putrid ones, looking ones. Then we had the companion to see as well. Here we go. Here's the pure ref board for Shroomy, the tardigrade slash baby hippo floaty truffle piglet that would help him seek out spores. So, who doesn't think baby hippos are cute? You're gonna have them inflatable and somewhere, little disturbingly cutesy, creepy. There's some early designs on there. There you go. That's from Justin Hamrick, buddy of mine. Did some of these beautiful designs. A little more Rick and Morty. Taking the same one and jotting some different colors over the top of it. And I think this was maybe the other player could control the Shroomy while adventuring through this place. So keeping that in mind, you're not locking. It's just Spitfire, right? Brainstorm. There isn't going to be any right or wrong per se with this. So multiple players possible. For now, single player. Objective. So definitely clear objective. Destroy bad spores, right? And then collect. Let's say the cures or healthy spores. I know this isn't coming across too well, but and then maybe a final objective, like I had something like awaken elder, right? And I'm already running out of room on there, so my red pen, no problem. I got my tons of cards here. I'll just put in the more objectives. And we'll do gain gear, right? Could also do um, gain abilities. Now, the objective could be like, a quest objective, but these could be like things you're supposed to do. So there's lots of ways you can interpret these. There's not a lot of hard rules here. Have fun. Speaking of rules, I guess to the rules card here. and I'll try to remember to actually keep my colors going. Um, Keep those Sharpies away from your dry erase cards. Make sure you're using dry erase. I wrote Sharpie on the top there with the Sharpie just to see how it would do, and yeah, it stays pretty cool. All right, so the rules. You must try and gain momentum, gain jump momentum. You know, if you don't get high enough, you don't string together your bounces, you're not going to be able to reach some of these hard to get gas, evil spores, bad ones. You'll also want to avoid mist. Now, these could be, yeah, you know, I'm not going to think too hard on this. I'm just going to go for it. You have to stick your landing. You have to do good. You have to do climb. See, good climbing, a good landing. And I'm just going to keep going. Lots, just brainstorm. Just come up with lots of rules. Lots of rules. Must have at least one hand free or the right tool to cliffhang. So what I'm thinking for this is if let's go look at the character sheets here. Boy, how much stuff did I open? I opened a lot of stuff. Oh, goodness. Game level design. There we go. So yeah, I thought for the character, originally we would have spores. You'd have a staff, and I have a whole set of different staff types, two-sided staffs, and I looked into staffs and hooks, folding hooks, sickles, machetes, halberds, pole arms, anglers hooks, different ways he would be able to maybe parachute and jump, float around. And I went back and to pay homage to Cyberpunk's popularity, back to the original Cyberpunk Friday Night Firefight, '88 paper doll, as we called it. But you can see here when you're doing character equipment slots, right? I'm thinking, you know, you can have slots that you have to um, kind of, can you stack slots? Can you, you know, how you equip? I think that makes a lot of sense. It's fun to do that with the tabletop, with the pen and paper, as well as the digital system. So I think for the slots, keep going here for some of the rules. Might get my green Sharpie out and for resources. And I'm going to keep them bouncing around here with rules, procedures, objectives, whatever pops into your mind. Get it down. Whiteboarding's great. I will do an exercises with the actual whiteboard. Um, but I'm starting off with cards first because I think everyone can grab some index cards and post-its and start playing around with this. So definitely for your resources, I think you'll want to think about gear and slots, right? Bigger and clearer for you guys. Gear and slots, and if it doesn't show up right, just wipe just like that. So nice. Gear. There we go. Slots. We'll do rope, hooks. And some of these, you know, as you're spitfiring, Some of these might become a subcategory. Remember, like rope and hooks is probably part of gear, right? But as part of resources, I'm not letting that slow me down for now. I'm just gonna keep going and just make sure I got my header right here. Resources, and you want to have your good spores. Good spore. Room there. Wipe it off, no problem. Good spore sack. So we'll have like a little and a collection basket that he'll carry to collect the good spores and keep them healthy, almost like a little portable habitat for these spores he's collecting, which we'll talk about some more. Um, Other resources that you have are a variety of caps, wearable caps. Try that again. It does get on your finger a little bit. Caps, which is kind of a major feature of the game. That's what I was working on most recently. So you see some of the different prototypes of mushroom people where the cap's really large, almost like a UFO, long, spindly body. You can see this was done in a PLA printer, so the arms broke off, but then the supports I left on looking like barnacles. Cool. The Mushroom Queen had a big kind of canopy, different fungal pieces, cranium area. And then the actual character that I was posting some work on most recently did a morel mushroom. So his cap here, you see, pops off, right? So that way I can pop this one off and put on one of the flatter, kind of more of the average looking caps. Little brass sock, I always have a hard time getting that to go right back on there. He also has a little spore mask, which I thought would be one fit right over his mouth. So even if this guy's not the right size, but you can see that kind of can fit on. So equipable pieces. The other thing you can collect out in the wild would be, see some of the caps. We'll add spore masks. Get another card. Keep going. Trying to wipe my detail away. They stack pretty good though. Like I have them, they're kind of rubbing, shuffling, and they're not wiping off right away. So they work pretty darn good. Resources. So another thing I thought was fun for collectible if I'm hopping through this, spelunking through this world of stalactites, stalagmites, giant mushroom forests. There'll be all kinds of creatures and critters. We'll do you do feathers. You could just do a sub head category of like creature parts with feathers, teeth, claws, scales. What else? Shells. You could go on and on with that. Monster Hunter comes to mind here with this game. The resources. So lots of critters. We're gonna have a whole critter segment, I think. How to make them from scratch as well. Critters will be they're yonder. Let's look at the critters real quick. Waiting to talk about critters for a while. I haven't quite started labeling this one yet, but we've done some quick experiments referencing Buddy Nick's whip spiders, which are pretty awesome. Actually, I had a pet whip spider. First person I ever met with a pet whip spider. Pedipalps, uh, abdomens, kind of different configurations. So they're just like a head as part of their chest, and then I went in and did some watercolor, gave him some little spiky whips coming off the sides. Might be interesting to put webs. We haven't gotten to the environment yet, but we'll definitely look at that. Each of these critters needs its different evolutionary states. And I do have some videos on rapid prototyping some of these critters too, and breaking them into parts, doing some ZBrush or just to free pieces. And here's some other parts. The antenna, types of antenna that exist, different shells. And then here's one of the early rigged in animation. It's really cool. Shout out to Nick for doing your first rigging and animation in Blender and bring it into Unreal Engine. Really cool. Little hurdle hopper, called it. It can like, catapult itself, fold itself up into a little ball, and then fling itself down and crunch. Kill their prey. So little pieces like this, like maybe the helmet to the hurdle hopper here would make a good shell piece that would act as a chest piece or even a helmet. Maybe the antenna, the tongue, whatever, the claws. Something for ingredients for the alchemy lab. I'll have like a little alchemy lab portion. That's so cool. So yeah, what kind of critters might we have as resources, friends, friendly? Lots of stuff to think about there, but I'm gonna keep going. Got my purple pen. Into procedures. What are some things that you have to do? You have to be able to land safely, land or hang safely. What does that mean? I'm thinking it's a little. I like to call the Breath of the Wild, and like having to exert yourself or hold your breath or things like that can be fun mechanic to play around with. So I think you should be able to steady yourself and actually collect or destroy or grab something, land safely. To so you have to have a collect action, so to speak, right? You also need to have a crushing landing, maybe crush landing, like a thud. What's that, like down arrow? You're gonna crush some of the bad um, spores that you encounter. And same thing, I'm just kind of going one after the other as fast as I can on these. And we'll do these in Moreau during class too. What are some other procedures you would do? You would have, there'd be a set to wear your gear. What would you call that? Blinking all of a sudden. It's, equip gear. We're collecting all this stuff. And maybe these don't go under procedures. Exact categorization, definitely this can change. And maybe not be doing all these perfect the first time. That's okay. Don't give yourself, beat yourself up about perfection. I'm just going as fast as I can with this. And so, yeah, just double check my notes here. Yeah, some of the basic procedures too, you could think about the characters like, can you attack? You attack? Is it melee or hand to hand, or is it a ranged? You'll hear me use a lot of role tabletop terms, D&D more so than digital. My background a little deeper in there. Lots of jumping. I put landing and hanging safely. I kind of skipped the obvious one. Maybe I'll do that on a separate card. So attack, defend, maybe block, dodge. Use with Doge. Procedures here. Feel free to abbreviate as you go. And just make sure it's legible to other people. You want to be able to collaborate a bit when you're brainstorming. And who knows, some of you may want to group together and work on the game together. Other procedures, I think I was just going to start talking about jumping, said landing, collecting action, crushing action. So let's just go into the jump, right? Walk, jog, run, sprint, perhaps. Can we slide, crouch, and crawl? I kind of put those on a card together. And this one, the landing safely, collecting in action, equipping gear. It didn't necessarily put, there was a wall hanging one. Land hang safely wall. I think climb got left off. There we go. So I'm pretty happy with stuff already. I think for the player, for the character, what I can do, I think I'm going to very quickly digest all this and do some, abstract representations for the character. So first things first, I'm just gonna take this whole little bit on a tray here. I like my big sheets of cheap watercolor paper. They're fun. I want to splunk around. Let's make it a quick environment and character, and let's just mock this thing up. And I'm working on a graph already of paper. Or, I'm sorry, a grid for my cutting mat, but I also have tons of graph paper standing on standby. Standing on standby. So whatever you want to make, keeping it as simple as possible. You could just grab some paper, right? Just grab my little thick piece box tops here, my cardboard, right? And take that and yeah, I'll just start with that. Take this piece here, get a cutting mat, get some craft. You'll keep it forever if you get one of those self-healing mats that lasts you a while. Think about how big you want your representations to be. All right, there we go. And voila. And so here's my little cardboard stand, right? Stands up by itself very nicely. I can kind of angle that. And if you have your little stands, of course, that's even better. Than I can pop that in there. And now I have like a little character that I can move around, representation of a player piece, basically, your pawn, right? Which is also a name we use in Unreal Engine called player pawns pieces. Now from that piece here, I could just keep it really simple. I can just take my marker, and just draw my little mushroom character on there. Right. And the iconography. My goodness. Right. Got big old feet, big old hands. Works for me. When I get more time, I'll draw it on both sides. There's my guy for now. And he's moving through an area, and almost anything you can think of. I love upcycling stuff. So if I were to kind of lay this out into a game board already, I collected some bottle caps, right? As you can use these for a variety of mushroom caps that you have to jump on piece to piece, right? And as we saw in the early doodle, in the early sketch over here, the smaller ones shoot you up a certain height, the medium, and then the larger ones, right, would change your distance. There we go. Or how far you can go. So I'm going to play with this. I'm going to play with this in both instances. I want to play with this as a top down here, so we can kind of bounce from mushroom to mushroom. I got some bigger my Talenti. I love my gelato, right? And I'm a little cramped here for space, but I'll get some other recordings for tomorrow. And I want to kind of spread them around, make some room here. And kind of I can use this measuring distance on the grid. I can say, okay, if I can jump, I can only jump from a smaller size mushroom. Let's say I can only go 1, 2, 3 spaces away, right? And then you got to figure out diagonals for yourself. There's all kinds of questions that arise from that. Unless, of course, you're using the tricky handy dandy hexagon, but we'll switch between grid map, square grid map, and hexagon grid map as well. Now let's say the big one here, let's say this one, I'll just stick with the two that I have handy. I don't think I really, this one's not enough of a spatial. I could very easily just cut a piece of paper, but let's say the big one lets you go 5 away, right? So you can go from here to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to here. Okay, now you have choice to make from here, yeah? So we can go 1, go up to 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or from here all the way across, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, up, 5. Did I say it earlier? That's what I meant. So let's move this one closer. Right, I probably slid a little. These are really slippery. Right, and so instantly now I'm thinking about movement and spaces, steps, rolling of dice, what you're collecting. Maybe if you go to a cap underneath it, it's going to be good or bad, right? You're going to get a good spore or a bad spore. Can you see it already? Can you detect it? Is there a chance in the game? Colored markers, glass beads make great markers for this one. I have some red beads and some silvery chromish looking beads and some light powdery blue beads. So your tokens and your resources, thinking about what kind of game system, how many of these maybe you need to collect, what are the power-ups looking like? Are there critters? They can come out. Other critters underneath some of these caps to reveal. Right? Aha. You're all thinking, right? How many ways could I do this? Maybe there are 2 red beads hidden under there. Maybe there are good ones under this one and this one. Right? And how many do you like grab these beads, shake them up, don't look, put 2 in the cap, flip it over, like liar's dice, and see what's in there. And so this is just getting started to mock up like quite a complex game system of jumps and abilities and trying to get a starting point and an objective and a framework. Right? It's already starting to come together into something interesting. Okay, for the next one, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of crafting methods. So what you can do is you can run down to Michael's or any of your hardware store and get a coil of floral wire, right? And I'm going to actually get some fishing lure eye beads, and we're going to make little wire sculptures that like represent parts on the board and grid. And from there, let me zoom up for this one. There we go. Hey, that works pretty good. You can actually make some fairly large, I'm going to make some large mushroom trees and go really 3D with this. This is just a cardboard piece, some aluminum wire, the epoxy sculpt. I have a pretty heavy washer in the bottom. This is going to be hopefully a more professional piece for demo, and then a big empty bottle. So we'll get to see in all of its glory. Let's see if I can zoom way back here. Whoa, there we go. What it takes to make a full miniature prop using magnets and metal to go up, very vertical with it. Um, and then we'll kind of go back to reality, so to speak, the simpler forms of this stuff. And we're going to focus on just doing a side scroll. I'm going to make some stalactites and stalagmites, some speleo themes. Side scroll, we're going to side scroll this verticality with gravity, but we're going to have it be flat on the table and do tiles for those. So those are the next two sets of videos to explore. All right, so whatever your game style, whatever your type, just abstract it, get it out, get something, you know, representational, and pen and paper is the way to go. It's sky's the limit. They can mean anything you want them to mean, and I think kind of mix these things together and I think putting it all in the lab, letting it cook, come up with the character. Where does the character go? How are they going to make that giant leap off the cliff? What might some of the spores look like? What's your reference looking like? Are you going to put yourself down into this miniature size? Throw on an Oculus Quest or Vive and even the Apple Vision Pro? What would it take to sketch your cityscape background? Give yourself a sense of world building. Are there critters living in these giant mushrooms? Of course there are. Are there more mushroom people, more mycozoids? Little houses? More alien? Can we do individual pieces? Quickly? Get some visual style. Here's a little spore pickup. Place it on there. Play with some charcoal. Do some 3D renders in ZBrush. 3D print them. Do some really advanced lighting and rendering. Come up with a whole ecosystem. Each of these could be a card. Right? I'm already thinking, taking some of the watercolor techniques that I was playing around with my buddy Justin, and bringing it together, mocking it up, and make it playable. Make it something where you can sit down and write up some rules, start to finish. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.